Well, this is great, and I love the idea that new music that can be new music can be classical music, but classical music has never been a simple term. If you go back even 100 years, there were classical composers who were borrowing from all over the world. Gershwin borrowed from jazz and blues. Debussy borrowed from Indonesian gamelan and other Asian influenced music. Even Brahms borrowed from the so-called gypsies in his Hungarian dances. So the idea that classical music is somehow pure, it's never really been the fact. And I think that it's refreshing to hear contemporary classical music also sort of stretching boundaries a little bit. I love it.
No, exactly, and like you said, a lot of composers look backwards for inspiration. Daniel Pesca's piece in Solitude is actually loosely based off of the opening of Bach's Sixth Cello Suite. So maybe I'll spend 20 seconds and just demonstrate that once we get to it.
Great. I think we're ready to go. I'm going to
Fantastic.
log off, Eric, and if you don't mind just giving us, your 20 seconds or whatever introduction to each of these pieces. Also, before I log off, I'm going to tell our audience listening, after each of these performances, one of the very important jobs that I have as host is managing the applause meter. What that means is I will unmute you all when Eric has finished, and you will show your support for him by clapping your hands into your microphones so that he gets that little charge of endorphins that we performers always look forward to after performing some music. So, Eric, I'm going to turn it over to you. Toy Toy, have a great performance.
Thanks so much, Ian. Um, so this piece was written by me. We'll start out with my song without words number one. I take the title actually from Felix Mendelssohn's Song Without Words set, and it's meant to be kind of a rock song but without words for solo cello.
Bravo, bravo. Bravo, Eric. Don't forget, I'm gonna need your help to unmute yourself here. You're gonna have to push a button here. Um, by the way, Eric, if you dare, I think you could live a little dangerously and turn your microphone volume up just a notch.
Sure, absolutely.
I think it sounds good, but I want the full cello experience.
How's that? Is that any better?
I think so. Did you crank it up a little?
Yeah.
All right. Let's see how it goes.
Okay.
That's enough for me. Go ahead.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. It really was an endorphin rush, getting some actual applause from actual people. I really appreciate that. The next piece is by Daniel Pesca, who lives between Baltimore and Chicago. I mean, he splits his time between Baltimore and Chicago. And this was a piece written for our mutual friend Paul Dwyer just a couple months ago. I think he finished this in April. And it's called In Solitude, about our time alone. So this one is not really a classical crossover piece, but he is a contemporary classical composer and a performer. And like I mentioned earlier, he takes a little bit from the sixth Bach cello suite, specifically the string crossings. So I'll play a quick example of that. Bach goes between the same note multiple ways. Ba-dum bum ba-dum bum ba-dum bum ba-dum bee. There's a reason I'm a cellist and not a vocalist. Here's what that sounds like. And you'll hear moments that are somewhat similar. As I said, it's loose inspiration, but it does harken back to that. So I hope you enjoy In Solitude by Daniel Pesca.
Bravo.
Thank you so much. And
Bravo. By the way, sorry, Eric. We'll have to do the mute juggling act here again. Bravo. That was wonderful.
thank you so much. And thanks to Daniel Pesca for writing such a just a fantastic piece. It's kind of epic. So, um, great. The last one that I'll be performing is by Martin Torchici, who's a um, cellist, composer, colleague of mine, who was in the cello rock band Break of Reality, if you're playing along at home. And this one's called Reflection, and it's just an absolute favorite. I think I come back to this piece more than like any other piece in my repertoire at this point. He wrote it in 2016 for his album Reflection.
Bravo.
Yay, yay, yay.
Bravo, Eric. That was wonderful. Thank you for sharing those three pieces with us today.
Thank you so much. It was really a lot of fun to be here and to
You
have
know,
such a
I was
wonderful crowd.
I was thinking during that last work, you know, one of our venues that we use up in Northern California is a beautiful museum in Eureka. It's called the Morris Graves Museum of Art, and it's one of these old Carnegie libraries. So it's built out of stone. You know, it has marble floors and it has a big domed ceiling in the concert hall. And throughout the whole museum, if we're doing a concert there, you can hear like it's just a wonderful acoustic. And I was thinking like if only our plans hadn't been interrupted this summer, you know, we had been discussing having you as a guest artist at the music festival. We could have enjoyed this, you know, in this sort of live acoustic. Um, but anyway, I'm very grateful to have this experience with you from your, you know, from your home. And I hope that, you know, in the future summer we can do some music up north at the festival again.
That would be a lot of fun. I'd love to do it. And thank you so much for hosting and having me, and to all of you for showing up to a fun concert and joining us for some music. So thanks a bunch, Ian.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. And so I'm sure some of you might have some questions or comments for Eric, but if you don't mind, we're going to hold those until the end, and then after the program, we'll do a little bit of Q&A time. But Eric, thank you again. Your contribution time is done. So next, I'm going to turn to our friend Alisa Rose. If Alisa is ready, then I'll ask her to start up her video and join us again. Hi, Alisa. Uh,
Hello. How's it
um,
going?
it's going great. I'm able to sit here and enjoy music, and here we go. Now, Alyssa, you and I met years ago, both at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music, and we both live here in the Bay Area. So you're coming to us now from where? Would you tell us?
I'm in Oakland today.
Okay, great. Well, Alyssa has been a guest at the music festival several times. She and I have played chamber music together. I don't remember what the last piece you know you did. Well, actually, no, I do remember the last time you visited because we played some of your own compositions as well, um, and that was tremendous fun. So, would you mind giving us just a short introduction and maybe share also a little story about your life since the disruptive effects of the pandemic?
Sure. So, well, I teach. Sorry, I should talk closer to the mic. What did you ask again?
Well, just to introduce yourself a little better than I have been doing.
Sure. So my name is Alisa Rose. Like Ian said, we met at the Conservatory of Music. I also love playing in other styles of music. I'm an improviser and a composer. I think all of these things go well together. Um, I teach students, so I have a fairly full studio of dedicated young violinists. So I feel very lucky to have that right now in a time when I can't perform very much. Um, and teaching lessons on Zoom is challenging, especially I have to say for the little tiny ones. The 6 year olds are very difficult to teach on Zoom because it's really much easier for them to like play along with you or for you to just like move their finger into the right shape than for you to describe it with words. But with the older ones, I think it's going well. Although I think that sound is such a physical thing. Sound waves are physical, and so this is wonderful. I'm so glad to be here. But there's no real substitute for playing sound in the same room as other musicians and playing it for an audience of people who you can see responding. All of that
Yeah.
being said, again, I'm so delighted to be here today playing for this festival.
Great. Now, you know, like most of us, I mean, you've probably lost a lot of opportunities over this summer. But from what I can tell, the way you've crafted your set is that you're going to explore various facets of your musical life. So both classical and other styles, right? So
Yeah.
would you mind telling us a little bit about what we're going to hear from you today? And then after that, I'm going to sign off and just let you do your music.
So I have a duo with Tristan Scroggins, who's playing after this. Our duo is called Scroggins and Rose. And since we can't play together, we released a CD yesterday, which was a very big deal. We've been working on it for a few years. And since we can't play together, we thought we would do some music to celebrate where we both play some of the music that influences us, some of our favorite music from our own solo repertoire that is sort of part of our musical voice. So I'll play some solos, he'll play some solos, and we're going to share a few things together, and you can hear how all of it comes together. So, yeah, I just picked some of my favorite solo selections. So my first piece actually is Bach, because I always love Bach. And this is the last movement, the jig from the D minor partita. And I think it sounds a bit like a fiddle tune. It's very dancey. So that's what I'll
Great.
start with.
I'm going to sign off here and then just reminding our audience that you will be applauding for Alisa. Good luck. Enjoy it.
Oh, holy mackerel. Alt A to unmute your microphone. Alt A, Alt A. Hey, Alt A. It's Alt A.
That was wonderful. Thank you
Damn.
so much.
Thanks for telling me to hit Alt A, and I did.
Nice. How great. That was wonderful. Thank you, Alisa.
Thanks so much. The next piece I'm going to play is it's the first movement of a piece called Blues Forms, and this movement is called Plain Blues, and it's by Coleridge Taylor Perkinson, who's an African-American composer. He was born in 1932 in Manhattan, and he's influenced by classical and jazz. He was also interested in dance and film and television, as well as classical music. Yeah, so here we go.
Wow, bravo.
Good.
Oh, interesting. Thank you so much.
I want to learn the other two movements. They're both also influenced by the blues. So the next piece I'm going to play is Tango Etude Number 3 by Astor Piazzolla, an Argentinian composer who also spent a lot of time in New York. And his music, this is an example of his compositional style called Tango Nuevo, which has both classical and tango and jazz influences. This was originally for flute, but it works, I think, well on the violin.
Bravo.
Yay! Woo! Bravo!
I love the tango. Bravo.
Thanks so much. And last, I'm going to play a piece I wrote. It's a fiddle caprice. So it's influenced by fiddle bowings and some of the different rhythms you find in fiddle music, but it's a classical style solo piece. So thanks so much.
Bravo. Wow, wonderful. Oh, thank you so much, Alyssa. I was just thinking about how nice it is that like this whole program features performers who also are writing their own music. That's so cool. I wish we did this more often. Thank you for that set. That was wonderful.
Thanks so much. Do you want me to introduce Tristan for you?
Yeah, Tristan, where are you, my friend? Our next performer, Tristan Scroggins, will join us here in a moment, assuming he's ready. Or if he's not, then I guess we'll. Oh, there is. There's the man. Hello, sir.
Hey there, how's it going?
Very well. Alyssa, do your thing.
So Tristan Scroggins lives in Nashville, Tennessee, although he's currently in Albuquerque visiting his mother. And he's a fabulous mandolin player, as you will soon hear. He recently won the Fresh Grass Mandolin Contest Award. He also can frequently be seen in Nashville on the Grand Ole Opry. And he won the International Bluegrass Music Association's Instrumentalist of the Year Momentum Award. I think I got it all. Please make him welcome. This is Tristan Scroggins.
Yeah. I can see that you guys tour together because she does your intro very well.
Yeah, it's something we do have to practice before we do shows, in addition to the tunes. Both of our introductions have long titles that are easy to forget.
Well, welcome to the Trinity Alps Chamber Music Festival. I think it sounds like you have a lot of experience collaborating with Alyssa and other musicians of different genres. But just I wanted to point out to our listeners that also the mandolin as an instrument has a long history of sort of bridging genres as well. I don't think we're going to hear any of it today, but I know that such esteemed classical composers as Vivaldi and Beethoven have both written music for the mandolin. So it's not. I don't think it's at all out of place in this setting, and I'm very glad to have you here.
Thank you.
I understand that you're also going to be playing some arrangements that you've made yourself. Do you mind telling us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'm mostly going to be doing more traditional music, and I'll explain more about that when we get to the pieces. But because they're not composed like classical pieces, they're shorter, they're on the shorter side. So I usually put them into sets, kind of like you might hear in like a traditional Irish setting. It's not really a thing with traditional American tunes, but just to sort of create a new sort of song structure, putting together these sets of music of different shorter tunes.
Great. Well, I will sign off here and wish you a wonderful performance. Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Ian. Well, I'm gonna do up first is one set that I haven't come up with a name for yet, but the first tune is one that I wrote actually, and it's one that Alyssa and I recorded together on our first record, which was called Graina. And I wrote this tune it's some number of years ago, but we arranged it for duet, and now I'm going to do it as a solo piece. And then I'm going to medley into a tune called Cumberland Gap, which is a really old traditional tune, in this case meaning there are so many different versions and variations of it dating back to the early 19th century that we really don't know exactly where it comes from. With tunes like this, it's generally assumed that they were at least heavily influenced by tunes that came over with immigrants from the British Isles, and then once those immigrants made their way into Appalachia, and the culture sort of mixed with the slaves being brought from Africa and the Native Americans in the area, that traditional American fiddle music sort of became a thing. And I'm going to be doing an arrangement of Cumberland Gap that is in a style that I sort of came up with to make my mandolin sound more like a piano, sort of. So we'll see how that goes.
Oh!
Thank you.
Wonderful. All right.
Well, next, I'm gonna do. Hold on there. Why won't you do? Okay, there. It did the thing. Okay. So next, I'm gonna do this set that I put together of a few newer tunes and one older tune. It's Tennessee Waltz, and then a tune called Wiley Laws, and then Wichita Lineman. And so Tennessee Waltz, you're probably familiar with. It's one of the most covered songs of all time. It was written by, well, it was co-written by Julius Frank, Anthony Kaczynski, and Red Stewart. Uh, Julius went by the stage name Pee Wee King, and he was a really important figure in country music history. He was an accordion player, and he and Red wrote this in 1946 while Pee Wee was the band leader of the Golden West Cowboys. And Pee Wee's also credited as the first musician in the Musicians Union to bring the Musicians Union to the Grand Ole Opry. Um, he always carried a union card. He always made his band pay their union dues. Then the next tune is Wiley Laws. Wiley Laws is actually the name of one of the people who played this tune. It became popular again in the old time music revival because of a fiddler named Manco Sneed, who got it from his mentor J.D. Harris. J.D. learned it from a man named Wiley Laws, who was a blind fiddler and an immigrant from Britain, who brought a lot of tunes to America. But we just call the tune Wiley Laws. This is like J.D. Harris died in 1932, so this is a while ago. And then the last song, Wichita Lineman, is one of Glenn Campbell's biggest hits. It was written by Jimmy Webb, who wrote a lot of Glenn Campbell's biggest hits. And this was actually more or less commissioned by Glenn Campbell after the success of By the Time I Get to Phoenix. He asked Jimmy Webb to write another geographical song. So he wrote this one called Wichita Lineman. And he actually didn't finish it when he sent the recording. He wasn't done. They just needed something to hear how it was going, and they ended up recording it before Jimmy finished it. But okay, here's the set.
Yeah.
Bravo, bravo. All right, you're muted still. Sorry.
Thank you. Sorry. Well, I have one more little set here, and this is a set of more traditional numbers. Um, I learned to play the mandolin from my father, who's a great banjo player, and we toured in a band together for a really long time. And we just sort of coincidentally spent a lot of time in Saskatchewan. And while I was there, I learned a lot about the Métis fiddle tradition. And Métis is a word that means mixed blood, and it refers to a group of indigenous people in Canada that had a lot of intermingling with the French culture from the French immigrants. And their music tradition is this really rich fiddling tradition and dancing tradition. And I had the privilege of getting to learn from a lot of those people. And I'm going to do a medley of a few Métis tunes. The first two were written by somebody who's still alive today, John Arcand. John has spent his life promoting and preserving the traditions of Métis fiddle music and dance, and he's one of the most decorated fiddlers in Canada. He's extremely well respected in both the fiddling community, the Indigenous community, and Canada in general. 2008, he received their Canada's like Medal of Honor. It's called the Order of Canada, and to date, he's composed more than 500 tunes, and he's a really great fiddler. So the first two tunes are his. One is called Kindra McGillivray's Hornpipe. The second is Old or Gray Owl. And then the third is a traditional tune called The Old Reel of Eight. The Reel of Eight is the name of a dance that square dancing and contra dancing is a big part of Métis tradition. And so the fiddling goes along with that. And they actually do this foot percussion thing that helps keep time during the dance, but I can't really do that with this mic. It'll sound terrible. But the Old Reel of Eight comes from a field recording of a fiddler from Alberta named Gilbert Anderson, but it's a much older tune than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bravo.
So,
Bravo, everyone. All right, I've exercised my muting powers, so now I understand that we are going to attempt something here at the end of our program. Alyssa, do you want to introduce this next little jam here?
Yeah, so next we'll be improvising on La Folia, which is a very ancient ground bass. You probably will recognize it. Corelli wrote variations on it, Rachmaninoff did, and many other composers as well. Now, usually a big part of our performance are pieces that we play together. Well, I mean, actually, that's all we do at a performance usually. And also, we improvise on themes. So we'll improvise on fiddle tunes, but we also improvise on La Folia, or on our first CD, you can hear us improvise on Paganini's 24th Caprice, the theme. So we're going to try to improvise on La Folia here for you now. Of course, we can't play together, so we're just going to alternate halves of the theme and respond to each other in a row instead of at the same time.
This is great. This is, I think, this is maybe our first attempt at collaborative Zoom music. And I think it helps that you both are so respectful at listening to each other and trading off. In fact, I think that's the only reason it works. So have fun. I'm looking forward to this.
Thanks.
Woo! All right, bravo. That was that was amazing. It's amazing, like it's amazing to me how how people have done everything in our power to like keep creativity going. You know that that was kind of like a miracle. I mean, the fact that you guys are playing music together when he's in New Mexico and you're in California, that just it makes me so happy.
It is nice to feel like there's some interaction.
Well, let's see. We have basically we've reached the end of our program, but we have just one more little treat I think to share with you. This is kind of too cool to pass up. Um, uh, as Alisa and Tristan mentioned, their duo Scroggins and Rose has just released a new album. And you know, one of the things I wanted to give them a chance to do today was to promote the new album. You know, hopefully some of you all enjoyed their music enough to go find it and purchase it. But another little teaser is a video that the two of them have made. Oh, I just see, by the way, that Tristan dropped a little URL about the album in the chat. In any case, I'll ask you a little bit about the album when we do the Q&A. But before we get there, I wanted to share one of these videos that you've put together. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you put this together after the shelter in place took effect. So separately from different locations?
Yeah, so I think we're going to share Anxiety Jig, and we made the video separately, which is actually extremely difficult and time consuming.
Yeah, they're sort of composed. I mean, they're composed like like more like classical pieces, so they move around on purpose around the beat. So it's kind of hard to line that up without being able to hear the other person in real time.
Wow. This piece, Anxiety Jig, would you tell us a little bit about it? Is it one of your own compositions again?
Yes, it's one that we wrote all this stuff on the album. Most of it was something that either Alisa or I wrote the original melody to, and then both of us sort of turned it into the tune that it is. This is one that I had the original idea for while I was having a panic attack. So that's why it's called Anxiety Jig.
Okay. Well, we're glad you're all right now. All right, let's mute ourselves and we'll turn it over to the screen share here. All right. bravo. Wonderful.
Together.
Yeah, that was so cool. I'm so glad we shared that. I don't even want to know how many takes it took you guys to coordinate. I mean, actually, I do kind of want to know. How long did it take you to coordinate all that? Uh,
Between each
Listen,
of us, it takes it whoever starts it. It was an interesting challenge because whoever started it had to just play their entire part of this piece written as a duet alone, and just sort of, it made me realize how much I rely both on visual cues and musical cues to start a lot of those parts, and it was a challenge to figure out how to have them line up, and then whoever was going to do the next part of the video had to do the same sort of thing, only there was no room, there was no flexibility with where you came in.
yeah,
Yeah, I felt
exactly.
like going second, you kind of basically have to memorize the timings of the first persons as well as you can for the entire tune.
Yeah,
And then, because it's a straight take, right? So I went second on that one, and Tristan laid down a great first take. And as a bonus, it's mostly like our music, while it's not written down, the parts are mostly like quite written out. I mean, not written out, but they're quite fixed.
hmm
Although there's like a solo section in the middle, and then we do have the freedom, because it is our own thing, to change it as we want while we're playing it. So it's sort of in between. So that one for me, it's also challenging to go between this very set part and then try to get a good solo in the middle of it. So I'm sure I did at least like 30 takes of that tune.
Wow, what a lot of work. Well, thank you for that, and thank you for sharing it. Um, by the way, just so everyone knows, they do have a few other videos, and what I'm going to do is, after these concerts, I send a follow-up email to everyone who's been here, and that includes like another reminder to please make a contribution to the festival so we can keep paying musicians like these. It also includes a survey, which I hope that you'll take a look at. We're all still learning so much about this new world, so all of your feedback is really important. So click the link for donating, click the link for the survey, and as a bonus, I will drop one of their other videos into the follow-up email. Also, this is the last of our scheduled digital concerts so far. We're going to take a couple of weeks off from doing Trinity Alps digital concerts, but I'm sure we'll be back either later this summer or in the future with live stream performances. So in the next few weeks, we'll be doing inbox concerts, so where we will send recordings that some of our musicians have made as a way to enjoy some music, straight into your inbox once a week. So we come to the end of our program. Thank you again, Alisa and Tristan. I hope you'll stick around for a little bit because we usually take some time for some Q&A with the audience. So at this point, I would like to invite our audience to join us and come back to the stage. If you would like, you can restart your videos and you can join the group again. You can, if you have questions that you want to ask of any of the performers, if you have comments, something that struck you during the performance, you can, wave your hand and unmute yourself. We would love to hear you. If you have anything for Tristan and Alyssa, or if you have anything for Eric, I see Mary Lynn and her partner raising their hands. I'm going to unmute you, except I think you have to unmute yourselves, Mary Lynn. If you can see the button there.
Mary Lynn and Fred.
Yeah, Fred, Marilyn, do you want to unmute yourselves? Oops, try it again. Sorry, that might have been my fault. There we go.
I think Fred was just, I think Fred was just stretching.
Oh, just waving out of excitement. Hey, Fred. No worries. Uh, well, let's see. I see Pam Halstead has something. Pam, you
Yeah.
want to go?
Yeah, I have a question. How did Tristan and Alyssa get together? Because both of them play different genres of music, but they sound wonderful together. So how did you?
I probably should have played a fiddle tune as well, because I do also play bluegrass and love fiddling.
Nice.
but I thought he had that part of the program covered for our solo selections. But we actually met. We were both teaching bluegrass at a camp in Canada called Nimble Fingers. We actually were supposed to teach there again this summer, but hopefully next summer. It's in British Columbia, and it's a wonderful camp for grown-ups who want to learn the banjo or the fiddle in bluegrass or old-time styles. So I part of my alter ego is that I do love traditional American fiddle styles and have spent many years studying them as well.
Nice. So I guess the secret is that even though Alisa has a long training in the classical world, that she also has been a regular in the world of bluegrass as well. Nice. Anyone else have a question or comment they want to join in the here? I see Annalie Veach is joining us also from Eureka. Hi, Annalie. I just wanted to share with Eric. I'm sure we all remember Eric from what, an hour ago or more. Eric, one of your fans said, I mean, several people posted comments in the chat, but one person said in the last work they appreciated the Eastern influence. Did you get a sense of that?
In Martin's original recording of Reflection, he made me take it down by ear. He didn't give me sheet music or anything like that, which I thought was rude as a classical musician. In his recording, there's no... I always heard that influence, but I tried to bring it out as best I could by dropping my hand closer to the bridge, which completely changes the sound of the pizzicato plucked strings. So yeah, I'm really glad that you picked up on that because I was trying to bring that out.
I thought it was cool just generally that your last piece was played entirely pizzicato, you know, plucking on the strings. It made for a nice segue to the rest of the program.
That was totally intentional. Martin wrote it back then for this program exactly, so.
You made that out.
A little bit, yeah. No, but it's an unusual thing to have a solo cello pizzicato piece, which is kind of fun. There's only one other major one that I can think of off the top of my head, which is Shadow Play by Eugene Friesen. So, yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, thanks for that. Anyone else? Louisa, do you have something?
I just wanted to say hi to Alisa Rose. I haven't seen you in a long time, and nice to see you again.
It's very nice to see you too.
Thanks. Bye. The concert was wonderful. I loved everybody. It was great. Thanks.
Thanks for listening.
Louisa and Michael have been longtime friends of the festival, and they actually helped us start a commissioning program where we commission composers to write new music for the Chamber Music Festival. And
fact,
Alisa was one of the first people to participate in that, right, Alisa?
Yes, I wrote a piece, and it's called Trio for Louisa, Piano Trio for Louisa, in fact. Who
it was fabulous. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm glad you liked it.
Very wonderful.
Great.
Maybe we could drop that recording into one of our inbox concerts later this summer. That
All
was
right.
really,
That'd
that
be
was a
cool.
lot. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Does anyone else have anything they want to add to the discussion today?
Yeah, I just really enjoyed the variety of the program. It was really a delight.
Me too. Thank you, Ken. Thank you. I have to check you. I see some other hands up. Who's first? Annalie, were you saying something? Annalie, I'm going to unmute you. Actually, you'll have to unmute yourself. There you go.
I think I did. I just want to add that I completely enjoyed this program, the contemporary music, the original composed pieces that everyone shared with us. I really, really enjoyed today. Thank you.
Of course. I have to agree with you. I see Prudy Noon has raised her hand. Prudy, are you with us?
Yep, I am. Tristan, how many instruments do you play?
Oh, well, I only play the mandolin particularly well.
Uh-huh.
But my dad's a banjo player, so I know how to play the banjo, sort of, and I can play guitar. Well, I have to, yeah, I guess I can play the guitar. It's based on my standards, I guess. I can only play the mandolin, but...
I've heard him... Wrong way. I've heard him play fiddle too.
Wow.
It's just, I grew up um, playing traditional music and spending a lot of time in that community, going to festivals um, and teaching and being around a lot of really great performers and composers and teachers, and so I just sort of absorbed a lot of that traditional music
Very
knowledge, but I
nice.
could only play like the stuff I do with Alisa on the mandolin, for example.
I have a follow-up question, Tristan. I know that the mandolin and the violin, they're tuned the same, right? Is that
Yeah,
so
mandolin.
have you tried to play the violin?
Yeah, I played. I was in my middle school orchestra. I was fourth chair. I was terrible, and I didn't really practice that much. I've recently been practicing more. I think I was just kind of lazy. That was why I didn't really do anything with the fiddle because it's so much harder than the mandolin. There's so many more things going on, and having to deal with the bow and keep in tune and bluegrass fiddle. I mean, I was playing bluegrass, and bluegrass fiddling is really difficult to do. The entry level is extremely high, so um, it just wasn't as appealing to me at the time. But I really love fiddle and playing violin. I just wish I were better at it.
Well, you know what? Just keep practicing. You hang in there. You have a head start because you know the tunings like better than most of us. I see my mom has joined the chat. Hi, Cindy. Do you want to say anything?
Well, we haven't gotten down to Trinity for some years, and it's good to see the concerts.
Well, I'm glad you're here, Ma. Um, one of the reasons why we're not doing a program next week is because I'm going up to Oregon to visit my family. So, um, yay for me. Too bad for all of you. Anastasia, I see you're joining us again. Do you have anything to share?
Well, I'm going to have an anxiety attack, Jim, because I'm so attached into having these concerts. They've really lifted my spirit every week. I look forward to them, and so please don't hold back too long, and maybe cycle through the same people. I mean, I hope you both, Tristan and Alicia and Eric, come back. It's just beautiful music. Thank you so much. Ah.
Thank you for that. It's so nice to have the support and the encouragement of all this community. I have to say, I had no idea what was going to happen when we started attempting to do concerts on Zoom. And I have to say the reaction from both the audience and the musicians that we featured has just really been overwhelmingly positive. So I'm so glad that we have been able to figure something out, for these times. It's obviously not ideal, and we're obviously all making compromises on different levels. But there are little sort of creative gems that pop up, and just the international ability or the ability to do all of this over long distances has created some opportunities too. So yeah, it's been fun. This certainly won't be the end. It's just a short hiatus. And like I said, I will fill your inboxes with music, so you have plenty of music to keep you sated in the meanwhile. Let's see. Anybody else want to share anything for any of our wonderful performers today? Well, if that's a not really, then I'll just remind everyone. I'm going to send out a little email just to everyone who was on this concert, a follow up. Don't forget about the survey. Don't forget about making a contribution so we can keep offering things like this and pay these musicians. Paying gigs are awful hard to come by these days. So so.
Yeah.
So your support matters, and also we will drop in a few little gems. Tristan and Alisa have their album coming out. We'll make sure that there's a link in the email so that you can learn more about it. Eric has his new music series that he's doing. We'll make sure there's a link in there so that you can follow up and hear more about Eric's programs. And then you'll hear more from the music festival soon. So I think we're all done here. Why don't we all just give a final round of applause for all of our musicians today. Bravo, everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Go mandolin.
Mandolin. Okay, everyone. Now with my awesome powers as the host, I'm going to end the meeting. Have a wonderful night, everyone.
Bye. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye
Stay
bye now.
safe.
Have a good trip.